This episode of Light On, Light Through is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/lighton. There are over 75,000 titles to choose from for your iPod, iPhone, or MP3 player. I'm Paul Levinson, and welcome to Light On, Light Through, Episode 85, Unconstitutional Wars. Well, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq 1, Serbia, Afghanistan, Iraq 2, all have something in common. They're wars that the U.S. pursued without the declaration of war explicitly required in our Constitution by both houses of Congress. Call them military actions, call them joint efforts pursuant to UN resolutions, whatever. Grant that they were justified for security or ethical reasons or not. What they all have in common is that they were and are illegal. And they, by and large, have not been very successful, with Vietnam the least successful and Iraq and Afghanistan not very far behind. Some of these actions started with small commitments of our military, others with massive shock and awe. But unlike World Wars I and II, the last two wars which we did declare and therefore pursued legally, we achieved no clear-cut victories in these unconstitutional wars. Korea is still split in two. Vietnam went totally over to the adversary, and the fate of Iraq and Afghanistan, those fates are still in contention. Only Serbia can be counted as the one sort of success. And now President Obama has put us into another unconstitutional war. It started last month with the announcement that the U.S. would help enforce a no-fly zone in Libya. That meant taking out Libyan air defenses and shooting down their planes if necessary. That was very close to war indeed, and of course, as always happens, it is now escalated into drones flying over Libya, bombing Libyan forces, pro-Gaddafi forces, bombing buildings, blowing up Gaddafi's offices. That sure sounds like war by any reasonable standard. So once again, we're gambling. Gambling that this action turns out to be more like Serbia than Vietnam, but the odds are very much against that when we consider what has happened in all the other undeclared wars. In fact, in the case of Libya, there's not even been any kind of congressional authorization. In some of these prior actions, there were votes taken by Congress. They were not constitutional declarations of war, but at least those illegal, unconstitutional wars had that. Our current involvement in Libya has not been supported by any exercise of the War Powers Act, which is also something that requires some kind of congressional oversight. Instead, what we have is, in effect, a declaration of war made solely by our president. And just to be clear, I voted for Obama in the past election. I consider myself a progressive libertarian. I support a lot of what Obama has done in his administration, but I think this undeclared war is a very dangerous undertaking. And unfortunately, not many people in Congress have spoken out against it. The two that have been the most vocal have been Dennis Kucinich, the Democratic representative, and Ron Paul, the Republican representative. And I hope that more people in Congress will join them in objecting to this unconstitutional action. Now, again, I'm not talking about the ethics of what we're doing. I'm not saying that Gaddafi is a good person. I'm not saying that I don't want to see the insurgents in Libya prevail. I'm not saying that I don't support the democratic revolutions that are popping out all over the Middle East and have been successful so far at this juncture in April 2011 in at least two places, two countries, Egypt and Tunisia. All of that, I think, is wonderful. And I think we should do everything that we can in the United States to support the growth of democracy in the Middle East, but not at the expense of our own Constitution, the Constitution which safeguards our freedoms and our own democracy here at home. We're better off not going down that unconstitutional war road again.
The Light on Light Through podcast.
Hey, here's a special offer for all of you listeners of the Light on Light Through podcast. Audible.com is offering a free audiobook download with a free 14-day trial to give you a chance to check out their service. You can get bestsellers on Audible.com. Hey, you can get a copy of The Plot to Save Socrates, my 2006 time travel novel, published originally by Tor Books. You can get a copy of The Consciousness Plague, one of my Phil D'Amato novels. You can get a copy of The Chronology Protection Case. This was my 1995 novelette, and the radio play of that novelette, which is available on Audible.com, was nominated for the Edgar Award by the Mystery Writers of America. So, download your first audiobook today. You can do that at audibletrial.com/lighton. I'll spell it out for you. audibletrial.com/lighton, capital Lighton. Again, that's audibletrial.com/lighton for your free audiobook.